Cheers, thank you.
Well, I talked to you about it's going to take you about 50 or you can try and get past it, it's very difficult. Ben? Whatever time you wanted to, so I can organise that.
Just to let you know, we've got some family from the Czech Republic, so Diana's going to be doing a bit of translation.
That's no problem.
So hopefully it doesn't disrupt you.
No. Just as long as you stand together, just chatter away. You go as far to the left as you can. Huddle in and pretend you're submariners. Hello.
Hello.
Torpedo tube, yeah? And a torpedo. Yeah. Huge. Yeah, but I'm saying,
okay, if we just face me, if you want to walk through and just join the queue and look as you go through, that's fine. But if you want to listen, and I talk for about a quarter of an hour, give you a little chat about what and when, and I answer questions at the end if I know the answer. Okay, so here we are. The submarine itself is 21 feet in diameter, which is the pressure hull. And on the outside of that pressure hull are saddle tanks, which if we were sat on the sea now, they hold air, which keeps the boat on the surface, right? And the air in those tanks gives us 250 tons of positive buoyancy, okay? But we're on concrete blocks at the moment, so that doesn't worry us too much, does it? Right, so 208 feet long, 21 feet plus the saddle tanks wide, which makes it about 28 feet. Weighs about 1,300 tons on the surface. They do about 15 knots on the surface, about 8 knots dived. Dived is on batteries, so you're limited to how long you can do that. And basically these submarines used to go around on the surface 75% of the time, see a target, dive, and fire torpedoes at it. But if it was a small target, they'd just stay on the surface, and there was a gun forward, a 4-inch gun. They used to just attack it with a gun. Right. So this compartment here is the forward torpedo compartment. From that door there, this door here, and that there is the fore ends where the 4 torpedo tubes are. And if you went to war, they would be loaded with 4 of these torpedoes, right? These torpedoes are 21 feet long and 21 inches in diameter. Lots of 21s, it's easy to remember, isn't it? There might be a little smidge like quarter in it, but just remember 21. It was designed in 1935 and we finished using it in about 1988. It was a point and shoot weapon, and it was 2 of these weapons that put the holes in the Belgrano in the Falklands conflict that caused it to sink. Right? It's loaded into the compartment through that hatch above that young man's head there, down on rails to here, and then it is fed into its stowages. There are lots of stowages missing, so we can get people into, right? So you'd have about 5 that side, and 4 in the tubes, right? So there'd be a torpedo here, torpedo there, right down underneath, because we sat on the diameter here effectively, aren't we? So there's as much underneath as there is up here, right? So that space that's left was the mess for 12 of the crew. Imagine, that was fun, wasn't it? Okay? So this is where they ate, slept, watched movies, all that sort of thing. The whole crew, right, was 66 men, sometimes up to 75 if you were carrying Royal Marines or trainees. So 6 would be officers. The captain in wartime, this was after the war, remember, the ones during the war were slightly smaller, but the captain would be about 24, 25. The crew would be anything between 17 and 30, varying from able seaman up to chief. So of that 60, 30 would be the technicians that looked after the submarine, i.e. diesels, generators, hydraulics, HPR, refrigeration, all that sort of stuff. And the other 30 were the men who fought the submarine, torpedo men, sound room operators on the hydrophones, tactical systems men who worked out trajectory of the torpedoes and that sort of thing. The food, there was one chef, okay, and he would do about 70 times 3 hot meals every day. Yeah? Sometimes it was really rough, and these things would roll on wet grass. There's virtually no keel, and you imagine in the middle of the Atlantic, up at the North Sea, not Mediterranean, not too bad, but you'd be rolling around. So there was always something on the galley stove called a pot mess, which was just a really fortifying soup that anybody who felt like eating could just dip their mug in, you know. So the food itself was really good. The prep was done by the messes, you know, veg prep, and the chef had a man called a tanky, who he gave him a list in the evening, and in the evening, when it was all quiet, the tanky went down the cold and cool rooms and brought up the food that was required to defrost for the next day. So the food was a full English, and as you go through on the one domestics, you can see it's laid out with a full English in there. Porridge was an alternative, and kedgeree was a popular alternative, which was curried rice and smoked white fish. That was popular. Lunch would be a bowl of wholesome soup and bread or rolls if the chef had managed to do bread the night before. Bread in the environment that's in, you know, warm, differing pressures, goes off very quickly. But it's all penicillin, isn't it? That was the main thing. In the evening, because these boats were basically in the war and pre-war, none of them actually served in World War II, but they were busy afterwards sorting out the Far East, and then later converted to do the Cold War up and around the Iceland Faroes Gap. The evening meal was usually something quite eclectic, because these boats had gone from UK to the Far East, taking about 2.5 months. And on the way, they'd have to call in at different places to get fresh food. So the evening meals were pasta, rice, all that sort of thing that chefs had got used to cooking, right? So that was really good. Washing. Yeah, that's about it really. There wasn't enough fresh water for everybody to shower. The chef was allowed to shower once, maybe twice a week. And be careful with that door, it's very heavy, whoever opened it. Could you shut it, open it fully please? Could you open it fully? Right back. Is there a catch on it? Okay, thank you. That could crush somebody, that. Where was I? Yeah, so anybody working the engine was sore fever and rags and that sort of thing. I've just been talking to my colleague today, who was a naval surgeon, a doctor, and we were saying that although colds used to spread very quickly, because the air is sucked centrally, distributed through these punkaluvas, they called them, and then went back, so it went round and round. But if one person got a cold, it was cold. But I served on several submarines, and he did as well. And we were just saying that a friend of mine, he served on several submarines, and unless you'd been to some, we went to Karachi, and you get the belly, you know, with ice, tomatoes and lettuce grown in varying quality of water and that sort of thing. But nobody had experienced it actually going right through the boat until this guy went on a cruise ship. So he spent 30 years in submarines, not having norovirus, went on this immaculate big cruise ship, and for the next 3 days, everything that came out of him was passed through the eye of a needle. Yeah, which is very strange. And considering the unhygienic conditions that we lived in, it just never happened. And just just makes you wonder whether sometimes being dirty is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where are we? Escape. Now, escape in wartime really, it was an option, but not a good option. Because you could be up the Ice and Faroes Gap, you could be in the middle of the Mediterranean, you could be out in the mid-Atlantic escorting a convoy, okay? So, as long as you weren't below 45 feet, which the Davis gear was tested to, you could escape, but there's nobody to pick you up. And a classic example of that was in 1950, just around Christmas time, HMS Truculent was coming up to the port of London for a visit, and at that time submarines only had a forward and after steaming light, a white light. So she was turned to come into the Thames, and a freighter saw her, right, saw the two lights and went through the middle, right? So the men that escaped from the submarine, there were about 45 men that escaped, but only 15 were saved. Because the other 30 just floated out into the Thames and drowned. Right. That's a bright note, isn't it? Yeah.
Sorry, before you go on, can I ask you how many torpedoes do they have in total?
Well, it would have, say 10, 4, 14, and 6, 8 back aft.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So they'd move, but they'd move them forward as they use them.
No, you can't move them forward.
No.
No.
So they'd just be
The ones
rear-facing.
aft stayed aft, yeah.
Okay.
I suppose you could, because if you were in sort of peaceful waters,
You could take them out.
you could, but it'd be a very long and very dangerous process.
Yeah.
They had little crane, either end. So, what they used to do, the smaller boats, quite often when they were in Gallipoli, around the time of Gallipoli, they were in the Sea of Marmara, right? And the examples there of a couple of captains stopping and picking up torpedoes that didn't work.
All right.
So, yeah, are there any questions? No? So if you go this way, you pass through all the mess decks, have a look in there, all prepared for different things, and then when you get to the control room, my colleague will give you a quick whip around in there.
Can we take photos?
Pardon?
Can we take photos?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, photos, sit on the seats, lie on the beds.
Just don't hit the torpedoes, right?
I listened, no. I before you. Thank you so much.
So, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Fire or yeah, what do you say? 12. There's 4 in the front here, wasn't there? And then
Torpedoes?
Torpedoes, yeah, and then
And about
that's
sort of
10 in the, and then maybe some in the back as well. So another 8 in the back. But they're rear firing, yeah.
Yeah, good, thank you.
If there were more people, they always carried about 2 or 3 hammocks just in case. Okay.
Stand up, finish. Oh, yes.
I'm sure there is a lady talking man that had all the pictures.
Oh, yeah, it's the road to Rio. Hello, the captain. Good old trick, good old trick. Oh, yes. Anyway, it's baby's heads tomorrow. Good to go, mate. Bashed on a pressure gauge last night in that heavy sea.
I wish my family could get grub as good as this.
Well, that one's got to end someday.
Canucks are all dry. Now have a wet on my top.
Thanks, Bill. I wish we had the time on Canadian, but...
Have some sippers.
I've been to
Divers to the gun tower hatch in 5 minutes.
Roger. The Admiral's cat has left a little something for us again.
I'll get it picked up, sir.
Is the control room, the submarine, any submariners amongst us? No, no Navy, no Army, RAF. So the next is the submarine. How many of you fly periscopes here? Certain periscope and the attack periscope. This is used to look around, to get a good look around everywhere on the surface. But it's a great big periscope. When you put it up, you can see it. You can detect it with radar. It could give your position away. If you're in a position of threat, you might want to use the attack periscope, which is much smaller. And if the captain was using the attack periscope, it'd be up and down and up and down, up for the minimum amount of time, whilst he assessed what he thought might be a target that he wanted to attack. And if he did want to do that, he would feed the information that he'd got, the range of the target, the speed it was doing, the bearing it was that it was from him, what bearing he was from it, what its course was, and he'd feed that all to one of his team, who would feed all that information into essentially a mechanical computer, which is just at the entrance to the control room there, which was like just a big mechanical computer, an early computer, and that would give them what they call the firing solution. So it would tell them what distance he needed to be, what angle he had to be from the target, and then he would fire the torpedoes from inside the control room. Navigation all over here, chart table. And then on this side of the submarine, inside the control room, you've got the helmsman at the front, who's responsible for keeping it on course, left and right. And we've got the foreplanesman who would sit here, and he's responsible for the depth of the submarine. He's got a big shallow gauge depth gauge in front of him, a deep depth gauge here. So, very important job to make sure the submarine is at the right depth. Especially if you're at periscope depth, you want to use the periscopes because you don't want to be too deep because you don't see anything. You don't want to be too shallow because you'll give your position away. Very, very skilled job to keep it on depth. chap sitting here is would be the chap who alters the angle.
You've got computers to sort.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, yeah, somebody has to make a decision, and it's all about looking at what's going on in the control room. Even the modern ones, it's saying we need to pump water from forward to aft or from aft to forward to trim it properly, and whenever we want to surface, to start and make our compensations to get enough air in the tanks and enough water out of the ballast tanks, so that we come up with a reasonable.
And what's the sort of maximum depth for this submarine?
Maximum operating depth about 500 feet, probably down to 750. If we had no choice. So that's the control room. As you go through this part here, you'll see the wireless telegraphy shack and the radar shack just through this hatch here. You'll see the toilets, which are not like our toilets at home. Did Alan talk to you about the showers on board?
Yeah, he said he didn't really have any.
There are no showers on board, so there were no showers. So the guys who went to see these, that's the conning tower you're looking at.
Yeah, they're from the Czech Republic, so Diana's translating. So they haven't got a lot of sea around them. No, exactly. Yeah, two.
On
depth.
You can stand
And
up.
then
I mean, yeah, you can. Yes, of course you can. Yes.
So the optics on these must be quite your top at the time, like the top.
Well, today they're superb. Have a look yourself and see. Let's do have a look. It's really quite sharp, isn't it?
Roger, 09, reporting 09.
Come on in. Hello there. You can have a seat if you like.
Okay, you go. Have a cup of coffee with him because there's nobody on the next one. Yeah, whenever. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, you missed a chance there. Yeah. The doc would have sorted you out. Now you're not playing on me to talk about. Never mind.
So yes, the wireless telegraphy shack.
Oh, yes.
Are we all here?
66 feet.
So that's it. That's the galley. That does 210.
65 loads, 3 cooked meals a day.
Wow. That is ridiculous.
So they would, the chefs would prepare it all here and in this bit. They'd cook it up and it would be taken to each individual mess in a container like that, and then it would be served out there.
Wow.
Yeah. Straight 8 diesel engines. These are the superchargers here. And the electric motors are down here.
I am assuming it would be super loud in here.
Very, very loud and very, very hot.
Yeah.
So, is this the emergency kit? Is this all you had to get out?
That's right. That's all they had. If they had to escape,
Yeah,
then it'd be
straight up
that
through
way.
here. Yeah, just
So,
tight.
very.
Yeah, for emergencies, as I was saying, they've got the emergency vest and they go up and out through on the rebreathers, presumably, until they're ready to go.
Yeah. So you'd have to, if you're sunk at whatever depth, you'd have to equalise the pressure outside to inside.
So you have to flood
So you
it.
have to flood this up. So there's a canvas trunking which comes down here. It's a canvas tube comes down to about this level.
Yeah.
So
you
and
have
then
to flood it halfway.
you'd flood it. You'd have to flood it to the depth that you're at.
Right.
So it could be up to your chest easily. So you cut the big valves there, they open up.
Yeah.
It floods from the bottom, brings up all the old rubbish from the bilges,
Yeah.
and
Sandy.
might throw a bag of biscuits out, or you might make like a trading cabbage or scone or whatever it is, it's easy to make. So the way that the gambling will throw the bag, so on one day it'll be focused at 10 o'clock, and then the next day it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you gotta get into a cycle then, what was it, 10 o'clock today, it's 4 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock. So every other day they do something that's 10. And again,